Welcome friends to another r/idontworkherelady video. As always, if you enjoy this video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. Our first story of the day is by Whip Solo. Karen demands I move 2 cars impounded by the police and meets Mr. Sparky. This story is from roughly 2013. I was an adjuster for lizard insurance and would go to many tow lots after car accidents and decide if a car was a total loss or send it to a body shop, as well as do the initial write-up of an estimate on repair costs. The tow lot I was at this day also worked with the state police and housed their overflow storage for anything deemed evidence and on hold from release. These vehicles were kept behind a locked gate inside the already fenced, gated tow yard. I was there to do an appraisal on 2 vehicles that had been involved in a minor accident. However, both were left unable to drive from the scene due to either multiple flats, lights knocked out, or windows busted. I finished the first vehicle, and I've started taking photos of the second vehicle. I have headphones in, and I'm listening to the album Cavalcade by the Flatliners. Seriously, check them out. Anyhoot, I see a woman I'd guess around 50 walk up to the police evidence lot, and the gate swings open out of the corner of my eye. Not paying much attention, as the vehicle I was working with was on the same side of the lot, but about 50 meters down from the evidence lot. As my back is turned to this woman, I will hereon refer to as Karen, I take the last couple of photos I need. The last being a photograph of the VIN of the vehicle, which is located where the windshield meets the hood, almost on the dash through the windscreen. Karen out of literally nowhere grabs both cables to my headphones from behind and rips them out of my ears. The Karen says, "Excuse me, why are there 2 cars in front of mine so I cannot get it out?" This lot would stack cars in 4 or 5 deep, side by side, and move them around with a small truck to release them. I say, "Please don't touch me, and I don't think you should be in there, and I don't The Karen says, "You shouldn't be listening to music on the job anyway, or slacking off taking pictures of other people's belongings. You're probably back here stealing." I attempt to point at the lizard insurance logo on my blue jacket, but Karen continues on. "Are you going to do your job, or do I need to call the police because you're refusing to give me my property?" I say, "Have you went into the office at ABC Towing?" She says, "No, I saw you here, and you need to move these cars so I can get mine and leave." As Karen opens the door and gets into the first car that's blocking her, I say, Hey, no, you can't go in there, that's police evidence." I use my cell phone to call ABC Towing and inform them. The Karen says, "If you won't move these cars, then I will. Where are the freaking keys?" I say, "In the office with the employees." At this time, the manager comes running out with one of those weird smartphone/Nextel style phones in his hand. The ABC manager says, "Hey lady, get the heck out of here. Those cars are property of the state police." Manager frantically uses his Nextel to talk to someone. Manager sees the chain used to keep the lot closed has been cut with bolt cutters. Karen was carrying a pair of bolt cutters and had thrown them into her car when she was back at it. Manager and Karen argue back and forth. I intently listen and half pay attention as I finish my duties for work. About 8 to 10 minutes pass and 7 police cars come flying back into the lot. Manager greets the police and explains what's going on, but not after Karen attempts to scream at the police that I had stolen her car. Police tell Karen to stand over in a direction he points, sending one officer to wait with her. Turns out the lieutenant was on scene, who was in charge of the county's police tow licenses. After getting manager's story, lieutenant comes to me and takes mine. While I'm informing him of what happens, Karen overhears and starts yelling and attempting to approach me. The officer standing with her grabbed her by her arm. Karen yanked that arm out of the female officer's hand and shoved her, surprisingly knocking the officer down. Karen is screaming incoherently as she charges toward me. The lieutenant steps in front of me and with his taser hits Karen with the most beautiful sound in the world. Karen goes limp and face plants in the dirt/light gravel of the lot and skids slightly. They immediately handcuff her. Turns out Karen had walked onto the lot carrying the bolt cutters while I was in the office talking with staff about the 2 cars I needed to adjust. She'd been roaming the lot until she saw me, and I happened to be near her car. Karen was charged with burglary, 2 counts of tampering with evidence, assault on a police officer, assault on me, trespassing, and resisting arrest. I know Karen did jail time, but I'm not sure how much. Years later, the tow company I now own impounded her car for being double parked. She remembered who I was and quietly paid. At the very end, when Karen got her car impounded again, this time by OP, do you think it was the intimidation of the memory of who OP was that influenced her to quietly pay? Or would you rather hope that maybe they did turn their life around a little bit and were acting genuinely better? Let me know in the comments down below. This next story is by Miranda Shadowblade. Sorry, but I'm also a student. Context: I'm a 17-year-old female and didn't complete enough credits to meet graduation requirements, so I've been doing online recovery courses in the counseling office since last week, along with a few other seniors who also didn't make ends meet on time. So the spot where we have to plug in our laptops is close to the entrance, and my spot in particular is right next to the door, has this clear plastic shield most places have been using for social distancing. There's a sign about 3 feet in front of the door that tells people to check in at the desk for assistance, and my attire is fairly casual, though still kind of obvious I'm not a staff member, so I can easily see where the confusion may be coming from. While most students who are coming in are attentive enough to notice I'm part of the group doing online work, for the past few days, I've had a handful of underclassmen ask me to help them with stuff, and I've had to give them a variation of the "I don't work here" phrase if their problem is well out of my capabilities, which is more often than not. However, if it's something like them asking to see their counselors for whatever reason, I've been nice enough to explain they're out helping with graduation practice and send them to the receptionist at the front if they need something else. Not as exciting as other stories on here, not gonna lie. I just find the situation kinda funny since I'm not at all used to getting confused for faculty at all. Although OP was getting confused a lot, it seemed like OP's head was screwed on pretty straight here and how to deal with it. You know, some people with that much confusion or repetition might let it inspire them to act up a little bit, grow tired of it, get a little rude, but OP's just kind of trooping through it. Our next story is by Nate the Punk 2, variant of the sub, but I think it fits. I don't go to school here, lady. So 2 years after I graduated high school, I landed a great job as a programmer. I was an intern for 6 months, and they hired me on full-time afterwards. So I went back to my old high school for a visit. I wanted to visit my programming teacher. She was such a huge inspiration and helped me out so much, and helped me after class with learning more advanced stuff, since she saw how much I was into it. I was excited to let her know that her dedication, helping me, made a huge difference and put me where I am today. So I was walking down the hall. It was a class change and many people were all over the hall. I'm just minding my business with my bright yellow sticker on my chest, with my name on it saying guest, walking towards where her classroom is. Here comes Karen, before Karen was a thing. Snatches my $250 Oakley sunglasses right off my head. You're not allowed to have sunglasses. I say 1, you touch me again like that, it's your job. 2, those cost more than your whole outfit combined. 3, I'm not a student, I'm a guest with the appropriate identification on me. They say, oh, you should make it more apparent. I say, which, you should keep your hands to yourself, regardless if I'm a student or not. Made a scene, won't lie, was great telling her off. Those curious, my programming teacher was super excited to hear about my accomplishments. She set up a day later on for me to come in and talk to all her classes about my experiences and the jobs out there. Was really fun and was glad I made my teacher proud. Maybe this will teach that teacher a lesson about not being such an uptight, rude person just because you think they're a lowly student misbehaving. It probably didn't make a change, but you really hope that this was some kind of a wake-up call. This next story is by Hidden Gems. You get your 40% discount. I work in retail at a mall in my area, and I wanted to see if I could find a particular book while I went on my last 15-minute break. So I decided I would scoot on over to the bookstore to see if they had the book I was looking for. It's very specific in a very niche section, so I wasn't going to push my luck, but I thought I would check regardless. I grabbed my wallet and phone from the break room at my store and walked on over to the bookstore. I found an employee stocking shelves. I told her what I was looking for, and she raised an eyebrow at me, then asked me if a customer asked me to look for this book. I got confused and, in my tired stupor, I just said no. So she waved me over to the counter in the center of the store and told me she was going to show me how to look it up in the system. I thought this whole thing was strange, but my brain was pretty foggy from minimal sleep and working all day, so I just followed her while she looked up the book on her computer. She told me that they had it only online, and she could order it and I would get my 40% off discount in addition. At this point, it clicked in my mind. She thought I worked here. So I asked her, and she told me yes, looking increasingly more confused. I laughed and told her no, that I was on my break from another store down the mall. She laughed as well. I still had my headset on. I didn't bother to take it off for my break. And she told me this bookstore just hired a bunch of new people, so she thought I was a new employee. We laughed together for a bit and chatted about working in the mall and how tired we both were. It was a small but lovely interaction that brightened up my day. You gotta love moments like these where, although there was a mistake that happened, you both just kind of come together and joke about it, have a laugh about it. And in most events, you might feel foolish for making that kind of mistake, but in this event, you walk away feeling maybe refreshed or just kind of happy about the nice exchange you had. And our final story of the day is by Andro Brindis. I got called in for emergency at the wrong hospital. I had been a doctor at a very reputed hospital in my country about 3 years back, well before the pandemic. I had worked there for a year before my husband and I decided to move to another country. I had resigned a few months before the travel to take care of the visa and all the other stuff we would need to do before moving to another country. During this time, I would still keep getting calls from the hospital to check on this or that patient, and I would politely tell them that I didn't work there anymore. I hadn't exactly worked in the ER, but had been the first one to be called in case of any issues with the patients that had already been admitted in the wards. Till the actual attending doctor of the patient came in. Each ward had its own duty mobile phone, and that's where the calls came from. The calls had happened very frequently, and every time I would tell the nurse who had called that I didn't work there anymore. I was very polite and nice as I had really loved working there, and though I didn't anymore, seeing the calls reminded me of that time. As the time approached for us to fly, I stopped attending the calls, hoping they would eventually stop. It's been now 2 years after we moved, and we're now in a country with a completely different time zone. Though I have a new local number, I still keep the old number from my country active. I still occasionally see a missed call from the hospital displayed on my phone when I wake up. I can't receive the calls due to 1, huge roaming costs, 2, the calls came mostly when I'm asleep due to time zone differences, and 3, the phone is almost always on silent. However, a few days back in the evening, I noticed there were 5 missed calls, all from the hospital. I had received them during the afternoon, which meant they were made when it was late midnight in my country. This alarmed me, as usually I only get 1 missed call, that too during the morning hours of my country. I immediately topped up the mobile and made a call to the hospital. I asked for the in-charge nurse of that particular ward. Since my number was still stored as the contact physician, the nurse who attended immediately called for the in-charge nurse and said, "Dr. OP is called." I think she was probably a junior nurse, as she also seemed a bit tensed. As soon as the in-charge nurse was on call, I explained the situation to her. I told her that I had received several missed calls in an emergency hour, but didn't work there anymore. She was surprised and immediately apologized. I explained to her that I had called not because it was an inconvenience to me, because it wasn't, but that if they tried to reach out to a doctor who doesn't work there in cases of emergencies and expected them to come, it could cost the patient their life. I had never received 5 missed calls before and hoped that the patient for whom I was called in for was alright. She assured me that everything was okay and thanked me for letting her know. She apologized again and told me she would delete my number immediately. I thanked her and hung up. Somehow, this time I was sure I wouldn't receive any more calls. That kind of made me a bit sad in a weird way, but patients' lives matter more. I honestly hope they get it all sorted out and call the right doctor from now on. In a way, personally, I find this story kind of blessed, that's blessed, cursed, in the sense that it's nice to have that longing reminder of a time you enjoyed. That said, it is every single time somebody trying to get a hold of a doctor for a patient in need of a doctor ASAP. I wouldn't be able to go on any amount of time knowing that I'm possibly getting in the way or delaying a patient from getting doctor care. It's a nice story, but I think there were some serious flaws being made. But with that being said, that's a wrap on another bunch of stories here today. As always, if you guys have any favorite videos of this bunch, let me know which one in the comments down below and why. And if you enjoyed the stories in general, if you could subscribe to this channel, it'd mean a lot to me. I make these videos daily, and it's by far and away the best way to support my channel. So no matter what you did, whether it was subscribing or liking, leaving a comment, I just appreciate the heck out of you guys. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow with even more stories right here on the Storytime channel.